Hi everyone, I'm Mumu from Susan's family. Today I'll teach you the method for knitting the mushroom vest from Botanical Sensations series. This garment comes in different sizes, all divided into front pieces, back piece, bordure, and decorative elements. These sections start by knitting the front piece, which is divided into the body and chest piece. The body uses a cable cast-on method of knitting. Crochet stocking stitch back and forth. You need to increase stitches on both sides. This forms a natural arc like this. Let's take a look at the chart below. Here I use a chart of any size as an example. One square in the chart represents one stitch, which corresponds to one loop when knitting. The blank areas have no stitches. This means you don't need to knit there. The positions with ellipsis symbols are the omitted parts. When counting the number of stitches in each row here, just count the number of squares, then match it with the number of loops on the knitting needles. The arrow indicates the direction of knitting. The right side always follows the chart from right to left. The wrong side follows the chart from left to right. Pay attention to working it on the wrong side. You need to knit the opposite stitch pattern as shown in the chart. The stitch techniques used here are knit stitch and M1BL stitch. Below, please watch me demonstrate the specific knitting method. Start with a foundation chain. Note to use the corresponding circular needle for knitting. Here, we use the cable cast-on method. For details, please refer to the video demonstration below. First, take out the corresponding yarn. Make a slip knot with the yarn. Unless there are special circumstances, begin by leaving about 10 centimeters. This makes it convenient to weave in the ends later. Pick up a straight needle with your left hand, or one end of the circular needle. Insert it into the loop, and slightly tighten it. This is the first stitch. Hold the other straight needle with your right hand in a pencil grip, or the other end of the circular needle. Wrap the yarn around your pinky finger once. Let your ring finger and middle finger gently pinch the yarn. And place this strand between your index finger and middle finger. This is the basic posture for knitting. After casting on the first stitch, bring the right needle above the yarn and insert it downward into the loop on the left needle. Keep the yarn with your right index finger. Yarn over to pick up the stitch. And place it onto the left needle. Don't pull the yarn too tight, or it will be hard to pick up later. This is the second stitch. Continue casting on. Bring the right needle above the yarn and insert it downward between these two stitches. Yarn over. Pick up the stitch and place it onto the left needle. This is the third stitch. Pay attention, don't pull the yarn too tight. Continue casting on. Insert between the loops. Yarn over and draw through. This is the fourth stitch. Each time you insert, it's between two loops. Continue knitting while casting on the next stitch. Cast on until you reach the desired number of stitches. This is the method for knitting while casting on. After completing the cast on, start working row 1 below. Here, I'll demonstrate using the smallest size as an example. Other sizes can be learned by following the pattern chart after mastering the technique. The sample has fewer stitches. It mainly demonstrates the method. Read the chart from right to left. Here, all symbols are for knit stitches. Simply knit the stitches. Pay attention that you insert into the loops. This forms a braid-like texture below. After completing the knit stitches, if the final loop is too large, you can tighten it slightly. You also need to increase stitches at the end. Here, since the next row starts with purl stitches on the wrong side. For convenience in crocheting, you need to work a right side M1BL stitch here. Transfer the fabric to your left hand. Place your right index finger below the yarn. Wrap around once. Place the loop onto the left needle. Check the texture below. The yarn on the right should be on top. Continue and work one more M1BL stitch. Place your right index finger below the yarn. Wrap around once. Place the loop onto the left needle. The second M1BL stitch is now completed. Refer to the pattern and finish the remaining whip stitches. The first row is now done. We will consider the side with the yarn tail on the left as the right side. Now, continue with the second row. Read the chart from left to right. Follow the chart and work the opposite stitch pattern. Here, all symbols are for knit stitches. Correspondingly, purl stitches are worked. You can see the position of the M1BL stitches here. This creates a purl texture like this. The loops will not be loose. Do not pull too tight when working the whip stitches, to prevent the carrying yarn from being too long. Continue with purl stitches. After finishing the loops, perform a M1BL stitch increase here. Since the next row starts with knit stitches, you can work a right-leaning M1BL stitch, or you can also work a left-leaning M1BL stitch. Here, I'll demonstrate how to do a left-leaning M1BL stitch. Transfer the fabric to your left hand. Place your right index finger above the yarn. Wrap it around once, and place the loop onto the left needle. Check the texture below. With the left yarn on top, continue working 6 M1BL stitch increases. After completing them, the second row is done. Continue with the third row. Turn your work, match and knit the stitches. Ending with a M1BL stitch increase. Mindful that it's better to use a right-leaning M1BL stitch here. The third row is completed, then work the fourth row. On the wrong side, match and purl the stitches. Perform an increase at the end. Either of the two increase methods works. The fourth row is now complete. Here, I'll use a sample to explain how to count rows on the front piece. One chain represents one row. When counting rows, be sure to avoid the increase placement on both sides. Count the rows in the middle position. The lowest braid is formed by the starting chain. It doesn't count as one row. Start counting from the second braid. The loops on the needle at the end also count as one row. The sample swatch has a total of 4 rows. This is how you count the rows. For the remaining part of the body, follow the method used in rows 3 and 4, and continue to work back and forth. Remember to increase at the end of the corresponding rows. On the right side, try to use the M1BL stitch increase at the end of each row. For increases on the wrong side row, you can use either left or right M1BL stitch. Everyone follow the chart to finish knitting the body part. Up to this point, the explanation for body knitting is complete. Next we will learn how to knit the chest piece. Start by binding off underarm stitches on both sides. Then decrease stitches on both sides. Continue knitting stocking stitch in the middle. You need to leave space for the neck opening at the back. Divide for left and right shoulders. Pay attention that the left and right here refer to the left and right when the garment is worn. The shoulders need yarn over short rows to form the sloping shape at the end. The underarm decreases start from the first row. As you knit, bind off the corresponding number of stitches on the edge. Finish normally at the end. On the next row, as you purl, bind off the corresponding number of stitches. Continue downward and decrease on both sides using the binding off method. For the specific knitting technique at the underarm position here, please refer to the demonstration in the video below. I'll explain the method using this small fabric piece. At the beginning of row 1, you need to bind off several stitches in a row. Refer to the chart for the exact number of stitches. The number of bind off symbols indicates how many stitches to bind off. Here, I need to bind off 4 stitches in a row. If there are many consecutive stitches to bind off, you can separate them first with stitch markers. Start binding off the stitches. The first stitch can be worked as a slip stitch. You can also work a knit stitch. Here, I'm working a slip stitch. Then work one knit stitch. Next, pass the first stitch over the second stitch. That's how you bind off one stitch. When there are no special instructions, on the right side, you bind off by knitting stitches. Continue with one knit stitch. Bind off one stitch. Keep binding off while knitting the stitches together. Keep knitting until there is only one loop remaining to the right of the stitch marker. Here, I have 2 loops left, so I need to bind off one more stitch. Now there is only one loop remaining to the right of the stitch marker. This is the loop from the fourth stitch. We need to bind off this stitch as well. Therefore, you need to knit one more stitch and bind it off. The next stitch is the final bind off symbol. The adjacent stitch here. We simply knit it as a knit stitch. Note: since the stitch techniques for different patterns may vary, you need to refer to the chart for this stitch. After finishing, bind off the fourth stitch as well. This way, all 4 stitches in the chart will be bound off. Continue following the chart for knitting. Pay attention. Next you should start knitting from the second stitch beside the bind off symbol. Before knitting, slightly tighten this loop to prevent any noticeable holes. There are no special patterns here, so we will knit all stitches as knit stitches. Finish knitting this row. Now, the first row is complete. That concludes the explanation for row 1. Continue with row 2. We will work this row on the wrong side. At the beginning, bind off 4 stitches in a row. Separate them first with a stitch marker. Start binding off stitches. Similarly, you can slip the first stitch or knit a purl stitch. Here, I'll do a slip stitch. Then knit 1 purl stitch. Next, place the first stitch over the second stitch. This will bind off 1 stitch. Continue with 1 purl stitch. Bind off 1 stitch. When there are no special instructions on the wrong side, you simply purl and bind off at the same time. Keep purling and binding off stitches. Keep going until you reach the point where there is only 1 stitch left to the right of the marker. Here we will bind off 1 more stitch. Now there is only 1 stitch left to the right of the marker. This means there is only the 4th stitch loop remaining. Bind off this stitch as well. Therefore, you need to work 1 more stitch and bind it off. The next stitch, which is the one adjacent to the last bind off symbol. On the wrong side, we will purl this stitch and bind off the 4th stitch. In practice, the specific stitch technique for this stitch is as follows. Refer to the chart to knit. This way, the 4 stitches on the chart will be bound off. Continue to follow the chart for knitting. Pay attention. The next step should start from the second stitch beside this bind off symbol. Before starting, slightly tighten this loop. This prevents any noticeable holes. There are no special patterns here. We'll purl all stitches. Now we've finished explaining row 2. Next, bind off on the right side. The method is the same as for row 1 here. Bind off on the wrong side. The method is the same as for row 2 here. I'll demonstrate 2 more rows. Continue with row 3. At the beginning of this row, we need to bind off 2 stitches. First, bind off 1 stitch. On the right side, knit and bind off. Then knit 1 stitch and bind off. Pay attention. When binding off the last stitch, the stitch you need to work should follow the chart instruction for the stitch pattern. Sometimes the motif is special, so this may not necessarily be a knit stitch. Everyone, make sure not to make a mistake here. It's the same for the wrong side. Now I have bound off 2 stitches. Continue knitting to the end of this row. After completing it, move on to the 4th row. At the beginning of this row, bind off 2 stitches as well. First, bind off 1 stitch. On the wrong side, purl and bind off. Then purl 1 stitch and bind off. That way, you'll have bound off 2 stitches. Continue knitting to finish this row. Now I have completed the 4th row. If you only need to bind off 1 stitch on each side, use the same method as the first bind off before. This is the technique for binding off at the underarm. After completing the decrease for the armhole, continue knitting downward. Perform bind-offs and decreases at the neck opening during the knitting process. Finally, knit the sloping shoulder using yarn over short rows. Here, I will briefly explain the knitting sequence. Refer to the chart, knit the section before binding off at the neck opening. Then knit back and forth on the left shoulder part. Knit back and forth on the left shoulder part. Decrease stitches along one side of the collar. Work even on the right side. Do yarn over short rows at the ending. Finish with the last bind off. Then join yarn and bind off at the neck opening. Continue knitting the right shoulder. Decrease at the neckline while knitting. Work even on the left side. Do yarn over short rows at the ending. Finish off in the same way after completing. Next, let's go over how to bind off and finish at the neck opening, as well as the technique for yarn over short rows. You can learn the methods first, then watch the video, and follow the chart. Complete this part of the knit work. Please watch the demonstration. Let's learn a commonly used method for decreasing at the neckline. That is, decrease stitches by working single knits together to create the desired curve. Imagine this is the front neckline. Therefore, this side is the left shoulder. Sometimes, the shoulders require yarn over short rows. There are no yarn over short rows here. I will only explain the neckline decrease. Let's start with the left shoulder. This chart has fewer stitches. The focus is on explaining the method. First, knit the first row of the neckline. Here, you just knit 13 knit stitches. If there are more stitches, you can use a stitch marker. to separate these stitches before continuing. I have already finished the first row, the remaining loops are paused for now. Next, work the second row. The second row is worked on the wrong side. You can see that this row starts with binding off 3 stitches in a row. If there are more consecutive stitches to bind off, we can separate them first with a stitch marker. Start binding off the stitches. Begin with 1 slip stitch. Then work 1 purl stitch. Then cover the first stitch with the next one. This binds off 1 stitch. Continue with another purl stitch. Then bind off another stitch. When there are no special instructions on the wrong side, you simply work purl stitches while binding off. There is 1 stitch remaining to the right of the marker, which is the loop of the 3rd stitch. We need to bind this stitch off. Therefore, you need to work 1 more stitch and bind it off. The next stitch is the one adjacent to the last bind off symbol. Here we simply work a purl stitch. Note, since stitch techniques may vary depending on the pattern, refer to the pattern chart for this stitch. After finishing, bind off the 3rd stitch. This way, the 3 stitches on the chart will be bound off. Continue following the chart for crocheting. Pay attention, the next step should start from the 2nd stitch beside the bind off symbol. Begin stitching from there. Before starting, slightly tighten the yarn loop to avoid any noticeable holes. There are no special patterns here, so we will work all stitches as purl stitches. Now, the 2nd row is finished. Next, work on the 3rd row, refer to the chart, and knit all stitches as knit stitches. I have already completed it. Continue with the 4th row. Here, just bind off 2 stitches at the beginning. The method is identical to the 1st row. Start with 1 slip stitch. Then work 1 purl stitch. Bind off 1 stitch. Continue with 1 more purl stitch. Bind off another stitch. Slightly tighten the loops. Then continue with all purl stitches, and finish the 5th row as well. Now, I have completed the 5th row. Continue with the 6th row. At the beginning of this row, just bind off one stitch. The method is identical to binding off the first stitch in the first row. After completing it, work all stitches as purl. For the remaining 7th and 9th rows, work all stitches as knit. The 8th row is the same as the 6th row. Bind off one stitch at the beginning. The 10th row doesn't require binding off any stitches. Work normally with purl stitches. Now, I have already completed these 10 rows. In the end, there should be 6 stitches remaining. Here, it is marked as resting the needles, which means these loops need to be temporarily secured. We can use a zero-line, placeholder yarn, to secure them temporarily. If there are no special requirements for the yarn tail, leave about 15 centimeters and cut it off. Pay attention to prevent the loops from slipping off. The left shoulder is now complete. Next, we will work on the right shoulder. Before starting, we need to decrease 9 stitches in the middle first. You can use a stitch marker to separate them. Pick up the new yarn and make a slip knot. Slightly tighten the small loop. Start with 2 knit stitches. Then decrease 1 stitch. And finish with 1 knit stitch. Decrease 1 stitch. When there is no special instruction, on the right side, you bind off while knitting the both sides together. Continue to decrease the remaining stitches. Remember, when binding off the last loop, this stitch you are working on is the first stitch to the left of the decrease symbol. You need to refer to the pattern and work the corresponding stitch technique. Here, we will continue with knit stitches and bind off. After completing, start from the second stitch and finish this row. Then, on the wrong side, purl the entire second row. Now I have finished the second row. Continue with the third row. At the beginning, bind off 3 stitches consecutively. You can start with one slip stitch and one knit stitch. Decrease one stitch. Continue knitting and binding off the knit stitches. Now, 3 stitches have been bound off. Continue to finish the 3rd row, and finish the 4th row. Now I have completed the 4th row. At the beginning of the 5th row, bind off 2 stitches. The method for binding off is the same as the first 2 stitches of the 3rd row. For the upcoming 7th and 9th rows, start by binding off 1 stitch. The method for binding off is the same as binding off the first stitch of the 3rd row. I will continue to finish the remaining part of the right shoulder. Now I have finished knitting the right shoulder. There should be 6 stitches remaining here, and temporarily secure these 6 stitches. This way, the method for decreasing stitches at the neckline is now complete. With the stitches held on the right side, proceed with the yarn over short rows. You can see that here we need to work 6 yarn over short rows. The first row is worked on the wrong side. Leave 5 stitches at the end unworked. I have already finished it. The second row is worked on the right side. First, create a yo stitch like this on the right needle. Then work 1 slip stitch. Next, knit 1 by 1 accordingly. Finish working this row. Once completed, continue with the 3rd row. At the end of this row, leave 4 additional stitches unworked, apart from the initial 5 stitches. Also, note that the yo stitch is not included in this count. After finishing, proceed to the 4th row. The method for this row is identical to the 2nd row. First, pick up 1 yo stitch like this. Then work a slip stitch. Next, refer to the pattern and finish the rest of the row as usual. For the upcoming 5th row, leave 4 stitches unworked at the end. Similarly, the yo stitch does not count. The technique for the 6th row is also the same as the 2nd row. I will continue and finish these 2 rows. Now, I have completed the yarn over short rows. Now, there's one more row to knit. This is for eliminating the row discrepancy. In short, it's called eliminating rows, or row adjustment. First, work into each stitch with a purl stitch. Continue until you reach the stitch right before the yoke stitch. Once done, swap the position of the yoke stitch with the one on the left side. Then work them together as one purl stitch. For every subsequent instance, when you reach the yoke stitch, you need to swap the position of the yoke stitch with the one on the left side again. Then combine them and work a purl stitch. Continue knitting to finish the row. Now, the row adjustment is completed. You can take a look. This is what the effect on the right side looks like. This is the effect on the wrong side. For the yarn over short rows done with stitches picked up on the left side, you can see that 6 rows need to be worked for the yarn over short row section. The first row is worked on the right side. Leave 5 stitches at the ending unworked. I have already finished it. The second row is worked on the wrong side. First, work a yoke stitch like this on the right needle. Don't make the yoke stitch too loose. Then work a slip stitch. Next, work into each stitch in sequence with purl stitches. Finish the row. After completing, continue with the third row. At the end of this row, leave 5 stitches at the beginning and reserve an additional 4 stitches unworked. Pay attention, the yoke stitch does not count. After finishing, continue with the fourth row. The method is identical to the second row. First, work a yoke stitch like this. Then work one slip stitch. Continue to finish the row normally by referring to the pattern. For the upcoming 5th row, you need to leave another 4 stitches at the end. Similarly, the yo stitch doesn't count. The technique for the 6th row is also the same as the 2nd row. I will continue and finish these 2 rows. Now, I have completed the yarn over short rows. Finally, you need to work one more row to eliminate the row difference, also known as eliminating rows. Start by knitting each stitch accordingly. Keep going until you reach the stitch before the yo stitch. After completing that, combine the yo stitch with the next stitch on the left side, and knit them together as one knit stitch. Each time you reach a yo stitch position later, you should knit the yo stitch together with the corresponding stitch on the left side. Continue to finish the rest of the row. Now, the row elimination is complete. Take a moment to see. This is what the right side effect looks like. This is the effect on the wrong side. Sometimes, in order to make the row counts match on both sides, you may need to work one more row. Everyone can follow the pattern chart specifically for knitting. Up to this point, the knitting of the front piece has been explained. Next, learn the back piece. It is similarly divided into the body and chest piece. The technique for the body and chest piece sections is similar to the corresponding positions on the front piece. Start decreasing stitches for the chest piece as well. Leave space in the middle for the neck opening. Work yarn over short rows on both sides of the shoulders. The method is similar to the corresponding position on the front piece. Refer to the chart and knit the right shoulder first. After completing it, bind off together with the right shoulder of the front piece. Then bind off at the neck opening. Next, knit the left shoulder. Finally, bind off together with the shoulder of the front piece as well. For the method of binding off together here, please watch the demonstration. The first method is connecting stitch to stitch. This is a commonly used joining method when both sides are still in the loop state. It's a commonly used joining method when both sides are still in the loop state. It involves joining pieces together by binding off stitches. This is commonly used for attaching the shoulders of front and back pieces. Both pieces are in the loop state. We will consider the side with the stockinette stitch as the right side. The binding off usually happens on the wrong side of the fabric. That means you need to place the two pieces with their right sides facing each other. Typically, one of the pieces remains uncut, no matter which piece the yarn is on. Place the side with the yarn tail on the right. Generally, when binding off to join, you bind off while knitting the stitches together. This means passing through the loops of both pieces at the same time. You knit the stitches and bind them off as you go. The stitch count of the two pieces is usually identical. You just need to knit into each stitch in sequence and bind off. If one piece has more stitches, you need to decrease on the side with more stitches while binding off. Let's assume this piece has more stitches. You can insert through two loops at the same time. And then continue by inserting through one loop. Knit the stitch and bind off. If this fabric piece has more stitches, you would insert through two loops from the back piece together. Knit the stitch and bind off. In my case, the stitch count of these two pieces is the same. Continue binding them off until finished. Simply tie a knot with the yarn tail and hide it. This is the effect after binding off the stitches together. Up to this point, the knitting method for the back piece is complete. Next, let's learn how to do the border. First, on the front and back pieces, start by casting on for the body, and knit the body borders on both sides. Then, at the armhole position of the front piece, knit the cuff border. Finally, at the neckline position, knit the collar border. Body border. First, leave a yarn tail that is more than 3 times the length of the body edge. Use it to pick up stitches along the edge of the right side. At the side edge position, pick up the hole between two edge stitches. Increase position. Pick up the 2 strands at the edge of the increase point. At the cast on position, pick up the 2 strands for casting on to perform the picking up. At the corners, you can pick up a few more stitches. This will make the fabric smoother and more attractive. There are no specific requirements for the stitch picking positions here. As long as the fabric piece lays flat without shrinking after picking up, that's fine. Then start knitting the bordure from the starting point. You can also pick up a short segment of stitches first, and then crochet. Observe the effect. Depending on the actual situation, continue picking up and knitting. The specific method can be referenced in the video demonstration below. Note that the video only demonstrates the technique. The fabric is not to be used as a reference. Start with the bordure first. Here, for a more pleasing appearance, leave a yarn tail 3 times the length needed for crocheting the bordure. You can leave a little more if you prefer. Pick up stitches from the chain spaces along the edge of the right side of the fabric. If picking up at a bind-off position, insert your hook into the hole underneath the bound off stitches to pick up the stitch. Here, I'm using a small sample for demonstration. The shape of the fabric is not to be used as a reference. Please refer to your actual project. Pay attention to use the reserved yarn tail when picking up stitches. At the position where the edging is needed, pick up an even number of stitches appropriate for the fabric. Just ensure that the piece is flat and looks nice. The insertion points on the swatch are random. After completing, secure the remaining yarn tails on the wrong side. That completes picking up the stitches. Next, move the loops to the other end of the straight needle. Start knitting the bordure from the right side. Then pick up the strand at the starting position. Chain 3 by inserting into the first stitch loop. Insert. Pick up the stitch. Transfer it from right to left onto the left needle. The first stitch is done. Continue by chaining 2 more stitches. Pay attention and twist the stitch as you transfer it. Then knit 2 stitches. Next, insert through the back of 2 loops on the left side. Knit 1 stitch. This will join with the first picked up stitch. Then slip the loop from the right needle onto the left needle. Knit 2 more stitches. You can knit them slightly tighter. Then stitch the 2 loops together. Mind the yarn behind the loops as you insert. Knit the stitch. This creates a continuous braid-like texture on the right side. It looks more beautiful. Repeat this process to continue knitting downward. After completing the last 2 loops with a cluster, leave a 20 cm tail and cut the yarn. Thread the sewing needle. Pass through the loop. You can go through one more time to close the opening. Tie a knot on the wrong side and secure it. Hide both yarn tails. This completes the edging. Next, knit the edging at the cuff position. The method is the same as for the body edging. Pay attention, when picking up stitches, you can also pick up 2 stitches at the body edging position. Align the edge with the edge of the body edging. If there is a gap between the 2 edging edges after knitting, you can use the yarn tail to sew and secure it. Try to make it look neat and tidy. Everyone, please complete this step. For the neckline edging, you can start picking up stitches from the shoulder joining point. The knitting method is the same as for the body edging. Just remember to sew the ending together. For specific sewing methods, you can refer to the demonstration in the video below. Demonstrate the edging with a small sample. Here, I will demonstrate the sewing of the edging ending using a small sample. After knitting to the appropriate position, leave a 20 cm tail and break the yarn. Thread it through a darning needle. Locate the beginning chain. Find the braid on the far bottom right. Start by drawing the needle upwards through the loop on the bottom right. You can let the loop drop down if needed. Then pick up the braid you identified earlier, specifically the one on the top right, and pass through it. Continue by inserting the needle into the loop at the bottom right again. Exit upwards through the loop on the left side. Let it drop down. Adjust it one more time. Check the continuous braid formed on the right side. Pick the braid in the middle of the top next. Pass through it. Insert into the braid in the middle at the bottom. Exit from the braid on the left side. Then pass through the braid on the far left at the top. Insert into the braid below. Adjust a little bit below. Make sure it connects neatly. Now the bordure is sewn together. Take the yarn tail to the wrong side. tie a knot and hide it. Neaten up all other tails in the same way. That concludes the explanation of the bordure. Finally, learn about decorations, including lace trim, mushroom patches, drawstrings and leather labels. Please watch my demonstration for the detailed making method. First, sew on the lace trim. Cut a piece of trim about 9 centimeters long. Pay attention to the edge waves, aim for about 5 full waves. Then cut another piece around 11 centimeters long. That's roughly 6 waves. Try to keep the waves on both ends as complete as possible. Along the area here with larger holes. Cut both sides down. Press it on the top and bottom sides of the starting lace trim. The waves below match perfectly with the edges of the lower layer's waves. Then cut another piece of lace trim. About 4 wave patterns. Following the same method. Cut both sides off. After cutting, place it on both sides. The corners overlap and correspond perfectly. The short side is pressed underneath. This is the arrangement of the lace trim. Next, we will sew the arranged lace trim slightly to one side of the middle of the front piece. It roughly corresponds with the armpit area. The exact position can be adjusted according to your preference. Below, I'll demonstrate the sewing method using a sample swatch. Take a corresponding yarn and thread it into the needle. Sew along the lace's openwork edges around the perimeter. Try to keep the gaps as even as possible. The stitching looks neat. At the corners, also secure the overlapping sections. Finally, vertically attach 2 buttons at the bottom left corner. Once completed, carry the yarn back to the starting position. Tie a knot and weave in the ends on the wrong side. Similarly, hide the other yarn tail as well. That's how you secure the lace trim. Next, let's learn about the mushroom applique. From left to right are the red small mushroom, and the pink mushroom, golden mushroom, orange mushroom, and large red mushroom. Crochet each one separately, then sew them together. First, let's learn the small red mushroom. It is divided into the canopy top and the canopy handle. The canopy top will start from foundation chain, crocheting in rounds counterclockwise. After completion, embroider spots on it. Several crochet stitches will be applicated. All are marked on the chart. I won't enumerate them one by one here. Please watch me demonstrate the specific crocheting method. Start with a chain stitch. Begin by making a knot first. Then crochet 4 chain stitches. The casting on is now complete. Next, move on to the first round. Start with making 1 beginning chain to start. Start from the second to last chain stitch. Pick up the top half loop, and make 1 single crochet correspondingly. 2 double crochets. Crochet 3 single crochets on the last chain stitch. Reach the other side of the starting point. Insert where you inserted your hook in the previous stitches. Correspondingly make 2 single crochets. Pay attention not to crochet into the insertion position on the far right. Gather the yarn tail together. Make 2 single crochets at this last insertion position. Finish with a slip stitch on the starting single crochet stitch. Tighten. The first round is complete. Cut off the yarn tail. Move on to crochet the second round. Start with 1 chain as the beginning chain. Insert the hook at the slip stitch position below. Crochet 1 single crochet and 1 half double crochet. Work 1 DC2 in 1 in the left stitch. That is, work 2 double crochets into the same stitch. The DC2 in 1 is completed. Continue and work 1 more DC2 in 1. For the next stitch, crochet 1 half double crochet and 1 single crochet. Work 1 SC2 in 1 on the left side. That is, make 2 single crochets into the same stitch. SC2 in 1 completed. Continue to follow the pattern chart to complete this round. Finish with a slip stitch. The second round is complete. Finally, crochet the third round. Start with 1 chain as the beginning chain. Work 1 single crochet into the spot to insert the hook below. Continue picking up stitches, and correspondingly make 2 single crochets. Work 1 HDC 2 in 1, that is, work 2 half double crochets into the same stitch. HDC 2 in 1 completed. Continue following the pattern chart, and crochet the corresponding stitches. Finish with a slip stitch. Do not tighten the slip stitch here. Stretch the loop and leave a 30 cm yarn tail to fasten off. Insert the hook into the left stitch of the slip stitch position. Then insert it into the chain where the yarn tail is located. Adjust a little. This way, the finishing end will not show the slip stitch marks. We'll take the side with clearer texture as the right side. This completes the canopy top piece. Next, take a strand of yarn for the canopy handle. Thread it through the sewing needle. The swatch uses random yarn. Embroider small horizontal segments randomly on the front of the canopy top to create spots. You can embroider once, or you can embroider twice. It's up to your preference. Finally, tie a knot and cut the thread on the wrong side. This completes the canopy top. Next, we'll learn how to make the umbrella handle. We will start from foundation chain, and crochet along the starting chain. Please watch me demonstrate the specific crocheting method. Start with a slip knot for the beginning chain. Then crochet the first row. Start with 3 chain stitches as the turning chain. Begin from the 4th chain stitch from the hook. Crochet 3 double crochets correspondingly. Crochet 2 half double crochets. Crochet 5 half double crochets in the last stitch. Crochet symmetrical stitches on the other side. After completing the last double crochet, crochet 3 chain stitches. Join with a slip stitch in the same position below. Pull tight. Leave a yarn tail of about 20 centimeters and break the yarn. That's how you finish crocheting the canopy handle. The crochet tutorial for the small red mushroom is now complete. Next, let's learn how to crochet the pink mushroom. It's also divided into the canopy top and the canopy handle. The technique for crocheting the canopy handle is similar to that of the red mushroom stem. You can refer to the pattern to complete it. We will start from foundation chain for the cap. Crochet along the starting chain. You will need to switch colors during the process. The new stitch technique used is treble crochet. Please watch as I demonstrate the specific crochet method. Start with the canopy top and the first round. The technique is similar to that of the red mushroom cap. You can refer to the pattern to complete it. Finally, fasten off the yarn. Move on to the second row. Join the yarn at the second to last stitch of the previous round. Chain 2 to start. Work 1 half double crochet in the same position. Continue and pick up a stitch for 1 HDC 2 in 1. In the next stitch, work 1 half double crochet and 2 double crochets. Then work 1 double crochet. Work 1 treble crochet, yarn over twice. Insert. Draw the yarn through. Yarn over and draw through the first 2 loops. Repeat 3 times. Treble crochet is complete. Let me demonstrate the treble crochet technique again. Yarn over the hook twice. Insert. Draw the yarn through. Yarn over and draw through the first 2 loops. Repeat 3 times. Treble crochet is complete. Continue and work 1 treble crochet correspondingly. One double crochet. In the next stitch, work 2 double crochets and 1 half double crochet. On the left side, work 1 HDC 2 in 1. In the next stitch, work 1 half double crochet. 2 chain stitches and 1 slip stitch. Row 2 is complete. Leave a 20 cm tail and break the yarn. This completes the canopy top. The pink mushroom has now been fully explained. Next, let's learn the golden mushroom. It is divided into the canopy top, the canopy bottom, and the handle. The crochet method for the handle is similar to before. Please complete it yourselves. The crochet method for the canopy top is similar to the red little mushroom umbrella top, only the stitch technique in round 2 needs a color change. Please watch my demonstration of the specific crochet method. Here I will demonstrate using a swatch. I've already completed the 3 SC2 in 1 at the tip of round 2. Next, work 1 single crochet and switch colors. First, work 1 incomplete single crochet. Insert the hook. Pull the yarn through, and the incomplete single crochet is done. Then take the corresponding yarn. Pull the yarn through. Adjust a little. And that completes the single crochet while switching colors. Continue crocheting with the new yarn using the corresponding stitch pattern. Weave in the yarn tail from the back as well. finish the half double crochet, and continue switching colors at the single crochet position. First, work an incomplete single crochet. Then pull the wrapping yarn a bit to prevent it from getting tangled inside. Keep the fabric flat. Pull the yarn through. Adjust slightly. The color change is complete. Continue with 2 SC2 in 1. Continue wrapping the yarn that was just switched out. And finish with a slip stitch. Leave a 30 cm yarn tail for binding off. Also leave a bit of yarn tail from the previous color. Hide these tails on the wrong side. This completes the canopy top. Next, crochet the canopy bottom. Place the canopy top with the color change facing up. Ensure the right side is facing you. Join the yarn in the front loop of the rightmost double crochet, that is, the yarn closest to you at this stitch. Chain 5. Work 1 double crochet in the same stitch. Chain 2. Then on the left side, at the next 2 front loops, work 2 double crochets in each one. Between each set of double crochets, chain 2 as a transition. After completing, break the yarn. Weave all yarn tails into the wrong side. This completes the canopy bottom. The golden mushroom has also been explained. Next, let's learn the orange mushroom. It is divided into the canopy top and the canopy handle. The technique for the canopy handle is similar to the previous one. You can refer to the pattern and complete it. Finally, let's learn the large red mushroom. It is divided into the canopy top, the canopy bottom, and the canopy handle. The technique for the canopy top is similar to the small red mushroom cap. After completion, use the same method to embroider the spots. The technique for the canopy bottom is similar to the golden mushroom's base. Refer to the pattern and pick the corresponding front loop to crochet. We will start from foundation chain for the canopy handle. Crochet in rounds counterclockwise. When crocheting the first round, pay attention to skip 1 chain space. The corresponding spot on the other side is the same chain. Crochet 2 half double crochets and 1 single crochet. You can refer to the pattern and complete it. This concludes the explanation of how to crochet the large red mushroom. Finally, sew the crocheted mushrooms together. The specific position is slightly above the center of the front body. Press the lace trim slightly on the top of the mushroom on the left side. The specific arrangement of the mushrooms can be referenced from the finished product. You can also adjust according to your preference. When sewing here, except for the pink mushroom, the canopy handle is at the top. The tip corresponds to the color change at the top. The handles of the other mushrooms are all pressed underneath. Use the reserved yarn to sew along the edge within the same color area. Pick up the stitches from the wrong side and sew, or weave in through the edge stitches to sew together. You can choose based on your preference. Below, I will use a small red mushroom as an example. To demonstrate the sewing technique, position it correctly first. Thread the needle with the yarn tail. Start by sewing the canopy handle. Mindful to adjust the position as you sew to prevent it from being sewn crooked. Prevent it from being sewn crooked. Finally, weave in the ends on the wrong side. Position the top of the canopy correctly, and sew using the same method. Complete it by yourself, for the golden mushroom and the large red mushroom later. When sewing the canopy handle, slightly secure both sides of the bottom edge. Or you can also choose not to secure them. You can decide based on your preference. That concludes the explanation of the mushroom applique. Lastly, let's learn how to make the ties. There are a total of 4 ties. Each tie consists of a rope and a 3D mushroom. Start by crocheting the rope. At the beginning, leave a tail about 3 times the length of the rope plus a little extra. Refer to the chart for the specific length of the rope. You can also adjust it according to your preference. Be sure to leave a 20 cm tail at the end for sewing. Refer to the video demonstration for the specific crochet technique for the rope. Below, I will demonstrate the method for crocheting chain stitches with yarn over. Leave a tail of about 3 times the length needed for the cord at the front. Hold the yarn with your left hand. The reserve tail should be underneath. Start by making a knot first. Then, place the reserved tail from front to back onto the crochet hook. Yarn over. Draw the yarn through the loop and the hanging yarn. The first stitch is complete. Place the tail underneath from front to back onto the hook again. Continue crocheting. Yarn over. Draw the yarn through. Repeat the process of hanging and crocheting. When you reach the desired length, leave the tail, cut the yarn. If sewing is needed, leave the tails a bit longer. This method can also be used to crochet double-colored cords. Hold 2 strands of yarn with your left hand. Color 1 and color 2 respectively. Yarn over counterclockwise once. Then hook out one of the strands from the left hand. Pull tight to secure the starting knot. Tidy up the yarn tails. Hold color 1 with your left hand. Bring color 2 from front to back over the hook. Begin crocheting chain stitches. Cut the yarn when you've reached the desired length. This is the crochet method for the double-colored cord. Next, let's learn how to crochet a 3D mushroom. There are 2 color schemes used. Start with a magic ring. Crochet in rounds counterclockwise. You'll need to switch colors during the crocheting process. Please watch my demonstration of the specific crochet method. First, start with a magic ring. A single magic ring is used here. Begin the first round after completing the ring. Chain 1 to start. Crochet 6 single crochets into the ring. Tighten the ring after completing this step. Be mindful not to pull it too tight here. Finally, join with a slip stitch to the first stitch. The first round is complete. Continue to crochet the second round. Chain 1 to start. Work SC2 in 1 corresponding to each stitch. Gather and secure the starting yarn tail as you go. Finish with a slip stitch. The second round is complete. We will use the side with the clearer texture as the right side. For the following rounds 3 to 5, continue crocheting in rounds while referring to the pattern chart. Please complete these rounds. Pay attention. When you reach the last single crochet of round 5, switch colors. Then join with a slip stitch to finish. Leave a 5 cm tail for the previous yarn before cutting it off. Next, I will demonstrate round 6. For this round, work into the back loops only. Start with a beginning chain. Pick the back loops and correspondingly make 5 single crochets. You can gather the yarn tails together as you go. Then skip 1 stitch. Work 6 single crochets. Skip 1 stitch. Continue with 6 single crochets. Skip 1 stitch. Make 1 single crochet. Finish with a slip stitch. The 6th round is complete. You can add a little stuffing with yarn scraps inside. Be mindful not to overstuff it. Continue crocheting in rounds for the following rounds. You can crochet and stuff a little bit of filling as you go. Make sure not to stuff too much. Some rounds require skipping stitches and leaving them unworked. After completing the final round, stretch the loop, leave a 30 cm tail end, and cut the yarn. Next, we will close the opening. Pass through the front loops of the stitches in the last round sequentially. Then pull tight. Closing is now complete. Then thread the yarn through the center of the closed opening. Exit at the starting point. Take a piece of string. Here I will demonstrate with a sample swatch. Thread it through the end without the yarn tail. Exit again at the closing point. Pull the string slightly inside. Pay attention not to affect the shape of the mushroom. If it doesn't go in, you can use scissors to assist. You can secure it one more time. Sew a bit from the stitch position of the 8th round. This will make the mushroom look more realistic. Finally, tie off and weave in the yarn tail. Now a 3D mushroom is done. One strap is also done. Finally, sew the strap to the corner under the arm of the front and back pieces. Note that the colors of the two three-dimensional mushrooms on each side are different. Use the reserved yarn from the rope for sewing. There's no specific requirement for the sewing method, just make sure it's secured properly. Hide the yarn tails inside the rope. After sewing, tie the strap. Once you confirm the length fits well, use the yarn from the crocheted rope. Secure the knotted part in place. This way, the strap won't become loose easily. That concludes the explanation of the strap. Finally, fix the leather label. Below the red large mushroom canopy top on the front piece. Use the yarn from crocheting the front and back pieces to secure it. Pay attention to the direction of the text. When sewing, create this texture. Lastly, tie a knot on the wrong side and weave in the ends. Everyone, complete it. This concludes the explanation of the decorations. Up to this point, the entire garment has been fully explained. If you have any questions during the process, don't hesitate to reach us via our website, Susan's Family. Supporting your handwork experience, sharing the joy of life. Thank you all for watching. See you in the next episode.